For a brief moment in December 2016, the whole internet focused on this image of an orange square. Instagram's most followed celebrities all posted it simultaneously. And within 24 hours, more than 300 million people had seen it. The square led to an announcement trailer for the infamous Fyre Festival, a music event unlike anything the world had ever seen.
The actual experience exceeds all expectations and is something that's hard to put into words.
My agency contacted me and was like, hey, there's this new festival coming up. It's really exclusive.
Pablo Escobar's private island, and that they were flying in thousands of people on private jets.
The most insane festival the world has ever seen.
Exclusivity with unbelievable access to premier talent.
Biggest event in a decade, I promise you.
I'll be there.
It promised the best of food, art, music, and adventure with some of the world's most famous supermodels partying alongside you on a private island once owned by Pablo Escobar. It looked like a lot of fun, but of course, it was all too good to be true. Instead of a glorious weekend getaway with private flights, luxury villas, and A-list performers, the Fyre Festival became the single greatest hoax in the history of live entertainment. A multi-million-dollar fraud that ended up with people sleeping in disaster relief tents,
Fyre Festival, and this thing was a complete disaster.
a hostage situation, and this sandwich becoming one of the internet's most viral memes.
New details that we're learning this morning about that epic Fyre music festival.
Going viral with the hashtag dumpster fire. Luxury getaway quickly spiraling into chaos.
And organizers released a statement saying, we thought we were ready, but then everyone arrived.
It's an absolute circus.
An absolute disaster.
I am stranded in the Bahamas.
But who was behind the Fyre Festival? Was it a scam or a mistake? And why, if the first one was such a mess, are they doing it all over again? Well, to answer that, we need to talk about the man who orchestrated this disaster, Billy McFarland.
So we're taking the dream for your average person in America or wherever they are and saying for 3 days you can become Pablo Escobar.
Billy McFarland was always ambitious, but perhaps a little too much. When he was 19, Billy dropped out of college to build a company called Spling. And since he was quite charismatic, he managed to squeeze $400,000 from a few venture capital firms.
Billy thought that he was going to be Mark Zuckerberg and that he was on the road to be Mark Zuckerberg and that nothing would stop him.
However, Spling was not a success.
I'm Billy McFarland, the CEO of Spling.
It was meant for sharing links to sites like Facebook and Twitter, which you could already do pretty much anywhere. But most people thought it was kind of useless, and soon it shut down. But this didn't stop Billy.
Billy McFarland came of age with the internet.
As this young man is growing up, there's a huge boom.
I was literally at dinner with friends and we all split the bill and we all had our introductory debit cards. And this idea struck me. And I'm like, wow, like, what if I can make these cooler?
In 2013, he launched a new business, Magnuses. This time, it was an invite-only black card for millennials that cost $250 a year.
What is Magnuses? It's a card, but it's more than that.
It's a card. It's more than that. So we take everybody who has a card and create a lot of great networking opportunities. And second is we're partners with local merchants, so fashion stores, restaurants, gyms.
And they could use it just like a regular credit card, except it wasn't one. Instead, Billy found a way to take the magnetic strip from the actual credit cards and put it into Magnuses cards. It was pretty shady, and several Magnuses customers have said they never received any of the benefits Billy promised. Some of them got unauthorized charges on their cards, and even though Billy claimed he had tens of thousands of customers, no one's really sure how the company made any money. So, Magnuses was also a failure. But it did lead to some interesting connections. Billy often threw huge parties for Magnuses members with celebrities like Shaggy, Guns N' Roses, and Rick Ross. And for one of the parties, Billy booked a show from rapper and actor Ja Rule. It didn't take long for them to go from acquaintances to friends, and soon enough, business partners. You see, whenever Billy tried to hire an artist for the Magnuses parties, he always had to pay lots of people so they could introduce him. So what if with Ja Rule's network and Billy's experience in tech, they cut off the middlemen and built an app where people could pay for access to celebrities directly? In 2016, Billy and Ja Rule set out to build this thing, and so they started a new business, Fyre Media. Now, they knew that for the Fyre Fest app to be successful, they needed something to catch people's attention, and it didn't take long for them to find an idea. During a trip to the Bahamas, Billy and Ja Rule stopped by an island called Norman's Cay. It was beautiful, secluded, and it had an interesting bit of lore. The island used to belong to the infamous kingpin of the Medellin cartel, Pablo Escobar, and that was irresistible to Billy. In his mind, he saw a tropical paradise ripe for a party bigger, more exclusive and luxurious than he'd ever thrown before. And with Ja Rule's help, he could get some of the biggest stars in the world to attend. Billy didn't really know how he'd make any of this happen, but that was a problem for tomorrow. For now, the Fyre Festival was on. Billy leased out the island from the owners and set out to promise the world's greatest event in the history of live entertainment. This was Billy's most ambitious idea yet, and it would also be his most disastrous. In 2016, Billy and Ja Rule made a guest appearance at the Web Summit, one of the biggest tech conferences in the world.
We are here at the Web Summit. Well, I'm gonna let my partner in crime here, Billy McFarland, give y'all an introduction of what Fyre is.
So Gutter asked for $1,000, and he said, I'll get you Ja Rule. So I gave Gutter $1,000. And Gutter called me a week later saying, Ja Rule hates your offer.
So one of the problems that we're really tackling is the nasty business of booking.
Now that he'd explained what the Fyre Fest app was, Billy just needed the entire world to know about it. That's where the Fyre Festival came in. And to promote it, he launched an undeniably genius marketing campaign. In December 2016, over 400 of Instagram's top celebrities and influencers posted an ominous orange square with a link to the Fyre Fest announcement trailer. It was everywhere, and it did exactly what Billy wanted.
The actual experience exceeds all expectations and is something that's hard to put into words.
Everyone thought the Fyre Festival would be an event like no other before it.
The most insane festival the world has ever seen.
I mean, everyone's supposed to be here, like Bella Hadid, Kendall Jenner, all these models, like in the Bahamas.
There's this new festival coming up. It's really exclusive.
On a deserted island owned by Pablo Escobar.
It's like history in the making.
There was music, private planes, and beautiful women.
This is the first weekend this has ever happened. So literally, I was excited.
Get ready, baby. Fyre Festival coming in April.
The Fyre Fest trailer starred top supermodels like Bella Hadid and Emily Ratajkowski, and when you look at their Instagram posts, it looks like they'd be attending. But it wasn't just them. Hundreds of artists, actors, and models made it seem like they would be there, even though none of those celebrities were actually planning to go. In reality, Billy had paid them to promote Fyre Fest. He paid Kendall Jenner $275,000 alone, and the total came to around $5.2 million. The public had no idea, so for now, the idea of partying alongside massive celebrities was irresistible. And with Fyre Fest just a little over 4 months away, the money started coming in right after the launch. Now, of course, when the time for the festival came around, some people might be disappointed if they didn't get to party alongside their celebrity crush. But this was the least of Billy's problems. You see, he promised Fyre Festival would have any luxury you can name. Charter flights, luxury villas, exotic foods, unlimited drinks, daytime activities, and 33 music acts from major artists like Blink-182, Major Lazer, Good Music, Tyga, and Lil Yachty. Some of the packages even included private homes and catering from celebrity chefs. And this is exactly why things fell apart. Fyre Fest was a logistical nightmare. Firstly, Billy hadn't even paid any of the artists who were set to perform until just weeks before the event. So many of them announced they would no longer attend. Considering that Fyre Fest was promoting an app meant for booking music talent, it wasn't looking good. But Billy's most pressing issue was with Fyre Fest's main selling point, the private island in the Bahamas. See, the island's owner had leased it out to Billy under only one condition. He could not, for any reason, disclose the connection to Pablo Escobar. But just look at Fyre Fest's launch trailer.
On a deserted island owned by Pablo Escobar.
This was Pablo Escobar's island 25 years ago. So we're taking the dream for your average person in America or wherever they are and saying for 3 days you could become Pablo Escobar.
When the island's owner saw this, he immediately pulled out of his deal with Billy, who suddenly found himself without a venue. Now, the Bahamas has no shortage of beautiful islands, but it just so happens that their biggest national event was right around the date of the Fyre Festival, and every other possible location was taken. The only place Billy could find was an abandoned development called Great Eczema. But it was far from a tropical island paradise. Instead, it was another nearby resort's parking lot. The team was shocked at the sheer amount of work it would take to make it livable. Not to mention luxurious. Great Eczema didn't even have running water, so it definitely wasn't suitable for history's greatest musical festival. But Billy didn't seem to care. He brought in a team of festival experts and just told them to turn this parking lot into a luxury resort, complete with a concert stage and luxury villas. But that was easier said than done. Even though Fyre Fest tickets were selling out, and in fact being oversold, the cheapest tickets sold for $500. And only a handful of people bought the more expensive ones, which went well into the $100,000 range. According to the experts, the total cost of Fyre Festival would be somewhere around $42 million, probably more, and they simply couldn't afford it, not even by selling $100,000 tickets. At this point, though, Billy was already way too deep. He had promised people the greatest music festival in history, and now he had to find a way to pay for it. And this is how Fyre Fest turned from a simple mistake into a deliberate multi-million-dollar scam. With just a few weeks left until Fyre Fest, everyone around Billy was starting to get concerned. They were way behind on construction deadlines, people were getting paid late or the wrong amounts, and ticket sales clearly did not cover the cost of putting on this massive event.
We were a month and a half out. I don't know how they thought that we were going to be able to do that.
To do a proper music festival, I would say you should try to start the design and the fundraising and everything at least 12 months out.
It was a mess. But somehow Billy would go away for a few days and come back with a few million, just in the nick of time. But where was he getting the money? Well, in the lead up to Fyre Festival, Billy had been busy siphoning millions of dollars from investors, especially by lying to their faces. No matter how cash-strapped he was, Billy always projected the image of a successful entrepreneur, flying private jets and driving luxury cars. Whenever he met a potential investor, he claimed that Fyre Media had made thousands of bookings and generated millions in revenue. In reality, they had only ever done 60 bookings and made a little over $55,000. But he just sent his investors fake bank statements, even fabricated loans from 2 different banks. So between 2016 and 2017, Billy convinced people to invest $26 million into Fyre Media, all of which went into funding his fake lifestyle and the Fyre Festival. But still, the festival was just too expensive to put on, and when investor money wasn't enough, Billy came up with a last-ditch effort to keep things going. During festivals, people inevitably end up spending money on food, drinks, and merch. Usually they pay directly to the vendors. But Billy had a different idea. He sent out an email telling attendees that they had to pay for quote-unquote fire bands, which let them pay for add-on experiences and other festival-related expenses on location. Now, Billy hadn't done any testing on the fire bands, but he pressured people to put a decent chunk of money on them, and it worked. A lot of people bought them, and they were prepaying an average of $3,000, even though there wouldn't be anything to buy. The fire bands were a total scam, but they gave Billy a little more cash to work with. Unfortunately, though, no matter how much money he threw at his problems, they just kept piling onto each other. Apart from the fire bands, Fyre Fest attendees hadn't gotten an update from Billy in months. They had no idea about the location change, where they'd be staying, or even where they'd be flying from, so they started getting concerned. However, Fyre Fest's customer service wasn't responding to anyone's questions, and the team began deleting social media comments, and even turning off comments altogether. Because of this, entire social media accounts were popping up to investigate what was going on, and they exposed how Fyre Fest had photoshopped the new location to make it look like a private island. Someone even flew down to the Bahamas to investigate, and of course, instead of the luxury paradise Billy had promised, they found an active construction site littered with leftover emergency relief tents from a hurricane. When that information reached social media, it went absolutely viral. Staff were under immense stress with only a few days to go, and Mark Weinstein, who worked with Fyre Fest, emailed the team and said they had to cancel some bookings.
Finally, I had convinced them to cancel some of the influencers who had been promised free accommodations for posting that little orange square on their Instagram accounts. And we were promised a villa by the beach, me and 2 guests. And so that's when I realized, like, we had about 200 of these people who were all promised a 3-person villa on the beach, and those just didn't exist.
Mark was told that his smiling face and yoga classes would make everything better, and work carried on.
You know, it's one thing to try to find solutions to problems, it's another thing to not take advice of the people that you hired around you because they have the experience that you don't.
And Billy refused to face reality. He just pushed his staff to work even harder, and to give the Fyre team credit, they did everything they could, and sometimes way more. One team member named Andy King admittedly had forgotten about an incoming shipment of drinking water, and since he never showed up to receive it, Bahamas Customs seized it. As if Fyre Fest's financial situation wasn't bad enough, the only way to get the water back was to pay $175,000 in cash, or Andy could do the customs officer a very personal, very intimate favor. Andy only told this story later on. It was a tough choice, but he prepared himself mentally to do whatever it took.
Billy called and said, Andy, we need you to take one big thing for the team. And I said, oh my gosh, I've been taking something for the team every day. He said, Andy, if you will go down and suck Cunningham's, who's the head of customs, and get him to clear all of the containers with water, you will save this festival. And I literally drove home, took a shower, and I got to his office fully prepared to suck his.
Luckily though, the customs officer was just joking around. He let Andy take the water with him if he promised Fyre Fest would pay for the import fee on time, with no cash penalty, and no special favors needed.
Andy? What happened?
I didn't have to do it.
No.
I got down there. He was the nicest guy. He's like, Andy, I like you. I'm like, oh God, where's this conversation going? And he said, you have brought such, incredible integrity to this event. And I said, okay, cool. Well, I didn't have to do it.
So, water was taken care of, but the rest of the festival was still just as much of a disaster, and it was now only a day away. The team braced themselves for one final all-nighter to fix whatever they could before customers arrived. They had endured months of chaos, but unfortunately, it would only get worse. Before we continue with the story, we want to thank the sponsor of this video, Delete Me. Most websites you visit on a daily basis have a lot of your personal information, and there is an industry of thousands of data brokers who collect and sell that information online. Your name, your phone number, your social media, and even your home address might be publicly available to anyone on the internet for a tiny fee. And bad actors can use this information to impersonate you, stalk you, or worse. Thankfully, Delete Me goes through the tedious process of finding these websites, removing your data from their servers, and double-checking that they actually do. We just started using Delete Me. Signing up was super simple, and in just 7 days they sent us a report where they reviewed over 3,000 listings and found 29 data brokers storing and selling our personal information. But now, thanks to Delete Me, they don't. It's that simple. If you want to secure your online privacy, get a 20% discount on any of Delete Me's consumer plans when you sign up at joindeleteme.com/explorist using the top link in the description, or scan the QR code on screen and use code EXPLORIST at checkout. Thanks again to Delete Me for sponsoring this video. And now, let's get back to the story. On the morning of April 27, 2017, the day before Fyre Fest, the Great Eczema Islands were hit with a devastating storm. Tents were flooded, equipment was ruined, and whatever work the team could do before people arrived had to stop. People had been telling Billy to cancel Fyre Fest for months now, and even after a storm destroyed weeks of progress, he simply wouldn't listen. Unfortunately, this just meant everyone would have a terrible experience. Just imagine being a Fyre Fest attendee. You might be an influencer looking to have a good time, get some content, and maybe even make some connections. You may have saved up money for day passes or dropped thousands to get access to an exclusive villa. Either way, you're going to Fyre Fest. It's been a bit weird in the weeks leading up to it. You're flying from Miami, but you weren't given any information until the day of the flight. From all the promo videos you've seen, you're going to be chartered on a Fyre-branded private jet to begin your luxury adventure. So you show up at the airport and finally, it's time to board.
Bahamas, we're coming for you, baby.
The first thing you notice is that there is no private jet, no party in the sky taking you to paradise. Instead, it's a regular 737, and it's pretty cramped. Odd.
It's actually worse than really being low economy class.
Mix the good news about this plane. If we want to leave, we can just take the window off and we can just head out.
Also, you hear that your favorite band, Blink-182, has pulled out of the festival at the last minute. Apparently, they can't deliver the type of show that they would like to for their fans. Bummer. But it happens. Hours later, you finally touch down in the Bahamas. It's sunny, and you're with dozens of fellow party-goers, eager to get to your fancy villa. But instead, you're taken to a bar on a repurposed school bus. This is just strange. But hey, you can drink and dance and take in the view. So maybe you're happy to start having some fun. Or maybe you're tired from your flight. Maybe, like the rest of the crowd, you're starting to get the feeling that all is not what it seems. You see, if the guests saw the damage the previous day had caused at the campsite, it would be chaos. So, Billy tried to stall for time while he and the team rushed to fix the mess.
Here's the situation. It rained last night. No one can go to the camp, so they told everybody to come here on Eczema Beach and get drunk for like 4 hours.
After 6 hours, though, they had made little in the way of progress. But the attendees simply needed to go to their accommodations, which didn't exist. This was the moment everyone had warned him about.
There was no one from Fyre Festival on the bus. The bus driver just knew where to go. And he's telling us, oh yeah, they didn't start construction on any of this until maybe a month ago. Or, oh yeah, you're really in for something. Just wait until you see what you're getting yourselves into.
Oh, get the beds. Turn around. Turn this bus right around.
We didn't have enough drivers, we didn't have enough houses, we didn't have enough beds, we didn't have enough site, we didn't have enough staff. It was just, we were overwhelmed.
This festival is never happening again. I hope they know that.
Against all advice, Billy had refused to postpone or cancel the festival, and now he couldn't stall anymore. When the guests arrived at the campsite, all their suspicions were finally confirmed. The conditions at Fyre Fest were unacceptable, and they demanded answers. Someone asked Billy where to go if they paid for a villa, but when he said that they should claim a tent, the safe, luxurious paradise these people had paid thousands of dollars for turned into a riot.
Welcome to the crazy, ridiculous, awful, crazy, ridiculous life of Dylan, where today's episode, I am stranded in the Bahamas.
None of us know what to do now. It's getting late. Someone took our room. They told us that it was a free-for-all.
So we have nowhere to stay.
Nowhere to stay. Some people are missing bags.
We're just trying to get our bags.
Pitch black out. There's trucks, craziness going on everywhere.
It's an absolute disaster.
Hundreds of confused, angry, drunk festival goers immediately rushed into the campsite and began looting and vandalizing it. People would poke holes in others' tents, damage mattresses, and steal everything from toilet paper to other people's luggage. It was too much. The team couldn't do anything about it, and behind the scenes, Billy was reportedly crying his eyes out.
I could see that there were tears in his eyes, but that was the first time that any of us had seen that. Through thick and thin, he stayed so positive, and it wasn't until that day that things started to crumble.
He had completely lost control over the situation. But only a third of the attendees had arrived, and the others were already flying in. What would happen when the crowd tripled? At the very height of the chaos, everyone except Billy seemed to accept that Fyre Fest was beyond saving. So the staff actually started going against his orders. They shut down future plans, announced that the festival had officially been canceled.
But this morning, the organizers of the failed Fyre Festival are feeling the heat.
We took a big jump here and a big risk, and V1 has failed.
Fyre Festival is officially canceled. We just got the news, guys.
Officially?
Is it really? That's what Mick said. Apparently there's no food on the island. They're not letting people in. People who just landed here have to go back to Miami.
And they even sent the incoming attendees straight back to the United States from the airport. As for the crowd at the campsite, the staff would have liked to send them home as quickly as possible too, but in the meantime, they had to feed them, and it was an embarrassment. When people paid thousands of dollars for Fyre Fest, they were probably expecting a 5-star dining experience. But Billy had to cut down the food budget from $6 million down to $1 million, which obviously meant that the Caribbean-style sushi was off the menu. Instead, attendees got this stale-looking sandwich with plasticky cheese and a dry salad on the side. When this picture reached the internet, the Fyre Fest disaster became a global sensation. There was a brutal onslaught of memes on social media, and even mainstream media had a field day with it.
New details that we're learning this morning about that epic fire music festival.
Going viral with the hashtag dumpster fire. A luxury getaway quickly spiraling into chaos.
And organizers released a statement saying, "We thought we were ready, but then everyone arrived. The team was overwhelmed."
Slice of cheese on bread.
For 48 hours, it was the #1 trending story on the news.
We had no electricity, there was no showers, there was no bathrooms, there's no running water.
You know, this tsunami of schadenfreude. Some people are calling it rich people's problems.
And also, Ja Rule is gonna be there. Of course I'm gonna be there. Who am I not to be there?
This is Ja Rule in his comfort zone, and this is Ja Rule outside of his comfort zone.
These are other things Kendall Jenner has been promoting. The Mount Etna active volcano rave.
What do you think of the Fyre Festival a week and a half ago? The people who got trapped in there in the danger zone.
I don't want the greatest thing that's ever happened. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, I know it's terrible.
But as if the sandwich wasn't bad enough for the poor Fyre Fest attendees, once they finally made it to the airport, things got even worse. On a small island like Eczema, there's a limited number of flights coming in at any given moment. So they were stranded at the airport waiting for a plane with free space to take them home. Now, waiting at the airport is bad enough, but the poor Fyre Fest attendees had no food, no water, some of them were drunk, and for some reason, the Eczema airport staff physically locked everyone inside a tiny room.
Okay, how long till water comes? And food.
When do we get our money back?
It was practically a hostage situation, and some people even passed out due to the stress. It took hours, but thankfully, the fire team eventually managed to fly everyone back home safely.
We made it. Success.
We made it. America.
We are alive.
Come on.
None of us passed out.
After months of chaos and one night of absolute insanity, the nightmare was finally over. And to no one's surprise, there were going to be consequences. In May 2017, barely a month after Fyre Fest, the first class action lawsuit was filed against Fyre Media for a whopping $100 million. The court documents perfectly sum up how Fyre Fest's customers felt. They describe it as something closer to the Hunger Games or Lord of the Flies than Coachella. In 2018, the courts awarded 2 attendees $5 million. 3 years later, 277 ticket holders from another class action lawsuit received a $2 million settlement, although their legal fees left them with just $281 each. However, apart from the lawsuits against Fyre Media, there was also a huge legal storm directed personally towards Billy. In order to fund Fyre Fest, he had lied to investors about everything from the value of his companies to having insurance, and he even tricked a ticket vendor into paying $2 million for advance tickets for the next 3 years of Fyre Fest. In total, he defrauded investors of upwards of $26 million. But that's not all. When Billy was awaiting trial, he ran yet another fraud. he started a company called NYC VIP Access that claimed that they could get customers access to exclusive events like the 2018 Met Gala, Burning Man 2018, Coachella 2018, the 2018 Grammy Awards, and Super Bowl 52. Never mind that tickets for many of these events can be bought by anyone, or that the Met Gala is invitation only. Before he was caught, Billy targeted former customers of Magnus's and Fyre Fest, conning them out of $150,000. So, in October 2018, Billy was sentenced to 6 years in prison and ordered to forfeit $26,191,306.28, which he didn't have. But we'll get to that. For now, all of the influencers who helped promote Fyre Fest were being held accountable.
What do you think why people buy that much tickets?
Who would want to miss seeing Kanye in the Bahamas with Kendall Jenner? We talk about the FOMO movement, like it elevated it to a 10.
I had influencers begging to go because all the other influencers are going.
After all, the event couldn't be as big as it was without them. Kendall Jenner actually ended up paying $90,000 to settle a lawsuit, although she said Fyre Media had also misled her. Ja Rule's name was also thrown around in the lawsuits.
Co-founder Ja Rule defending himself on social media and now saying he was also a victim of the scam as dueling documentaries put the failed event back in the spotlight.
Twitter users not mincing words, fraud, liar, manipulator, demanding to know what Ja Rule knew and when.
He and Billy were supposedly organizing the event together, but actually the courts concluded that he was not influential enough to have gotten anyone to attend Fyre Fest. That must have hurt his ego a little bit. But either way, since Ja Rule also wasn't involved in the scheme to defraud investors, the courts let him off without any consequences. And now anytime people ask him about Fyre Fest, he always says Billy screwed him over, just like everyone else. But many people don't believe him.
The music mogul firing back, tweeting, "I too was hustled, scammed, bamboozled, hoodwinked, led astray."
Fyre Fest was a clear sign that regulators had to do more to protect online consumers. Ever since, organizations like the Advertising Standards Association and the Federal Trade Commission have been stricter about celebrities promoting products and events online. But really, this went way beyond internet shopping. A few years before Fyre Fest, a restaurant owner from the Bahamas revealed that during the preparations, she had been paying dozens of workers out of her own pocket. So when Billy disappeared from the Bahamas, she and her husband found themselves in a dire financial situation. Thankfully, though, once her story went public, she was able to raise $250,000 through a GoFundMe, which let her cover her losses and helped other Bahamian locals who got scammed by Billy.
Fyre Festival was a disaster. I was there preparing hundreds and hundreds of meals, and I was not able to be paid. Out of savings, I sure have spent more than $50,000 in bills that I am still trying to, overcome at this time.
Fyre Fest consequences stretch way beyond just a few partygoers, but now it was finally over, except Billy was now behind bars. And while you would think he would use his time for some honest introspection, this is Billy McFarland we're talking about. He had bigger plans.
Hey guys, it's Billy McFarland. As you might know, I effed around. And because of that, I definitely found out. You might have guessed, but I'm working on something new. This time, it's a little crazier, but a whole lot bigger than anything I've ever tried before.
Billy was released from prison on March 30th, 2022. He served less than 4 years, every second of which he had spent planning his comeback. Billy immediately appeared on podcasts and media platforms because, for one, he wanted to reintroduce himself to the world and salvage his reputation.
So I messed up, and I was so driven by this desperate desire to prove people right.
But also, he wanted to introduce his new business, Pirate.
Were you thinking about, okay, this is what I need to do when I get out, or this is plans that I have to start when I get out?
Yeah, so working on a company now. It's called Pirate. Put it together during
So this is the new game plan.
Yeah.
Pirate. All right, let's fucking hear it.
Pirate.
The idea behind Pirate was to put on a treasure hunt of sorts, where people had to find 99 bottles with secret messages, and Billy would produce a TV show out of it. It's a weird idea, and the location, of course, was the Bahamas.
When I go back to the Bahamas for the first time, I don't know what's going to happen. I have to ask permission to go, but I'd love for you guys to be there to capture the content and be the first ones to return, boots in the ground. I think full send, getting the reaction from the locals.
This is actually hilarious.
When Billy announced this, people felt it was just disrespectful. Even the government of the Bahamas officially said they considered Billy a fugitive, and if he ever set foot in their country again, he'd be arrested.
What did the statement say?
That I'm a fugitive of the Bahamas.
So if you go to the Bahamas, they would arrest you?
It sounds like it.
Needless to say, Billy won't be showing up to the Bahamas anytime soon, but pirates still got him sued, again, for defrauding investors. See, when Billy was in prison, he allegedly sold a third of the shares of Pirate to another inmate for $740,000. But when he was released, he didn't give the guy his shares or his money back, and now he's suing Billy for it. So there was never a pirate treasure hunt, but that was never really Billy's main move. After all, he owes $26 million, and there's only one way he's going to pay this.
It has been a long 7 years, but Fyre is back. This is our first step of many. Let's go!
That's right. We're getting Fyre Fest 2 on April 25th, 2025.
Fyre Festival 2 is happening April 25th of 2025, so we're 7.5 months away. We have a private island off the coast of Mexico in the Caribbean.
Billy announced Fyre Fest 2 in late 2023, and the tickets actually sold out.
We announced our first pre-sale on Sunday. They sold out very, very quickly.
The first batch of tickets went for $500, and the subsequent drops have included tickets ranging from $2,500 to $250,000, and even a ticket for $1.1 million, which comes with access to a luxury condo in Miami.
We received over $110 million of applications for people who wanted to come to Fyre 2, and that included a number of people who were bidding on or applying to buy a $1 million Fyre ticket.
As for the location, the Bahamas are off the table. So this time, the festival will take place on an island off the coast of Mexico.
The team is on the island, and it is safe to say things are already looking better than Fyre 1.
According to Billy, there are already hotels built there, so it seems like he's learned from his mistakes. But he hasn't booked any artists yet.
We haven't booked any talent for Fyre 2. It's not going to be just music.
Given his reputation and how disastrous the first Fyre Festival was, it's truly incredible that Billy has managed to sell any tickets for Fyre Fest 2. Influencers aren't clamoring to promote it, corporate brands want nothing to do with it, and news outlets are dying for it to become another scandal. But despite all the red flags, people are lining up for Fyre Fest 2 because maybe, just maybe, it might be the greatest time of their life. That hope is what Billy has always sold, but he knows it's false.
We are selling a pipe dream to your average middle America.
Hopefully, though, Billy learned his lesson. These days, in the lead up to Fyre Fest 2, Billy keeps his fans regularly updated on Instagram. Whether it'll be a success or an even bigger disaster than Fyre Fest 1 is still uncertain. But there is one thing we can say for sure. We haven't seen the last of Billy McFarland. Thanks again to Delete Me for sponsoring this video. Get a 20% discount on any of Delete Me's consumer plans when you sign up at joindeleteme.com/explorist.